booties for black girl nerds.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie.
Is that a skateboard?
I was thinking the same thing.
It is from a show called Naomi way back in the day.
I know Naomi.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure to talk to both of you guys today. I really appreciate your time. I really enjoyed this show. I could not watch it at night. I had to watch it during the day.
Fair enough. As long as you watch it, we're happy.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want my mind disturbed right before I go back to bed. But it was so good. It was so good. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you. Derry itself, it feels like a living, breathing character. How did the atmosphere influence or inform your performance?
I think we were so blessed on this show to have people who created the atmospheres for us that knew it with such great detail, having worked on the first movie and the second movie. We were lucky. We had a lot of the same creatives. So they already had an incredible confidence and an incredible loyalty to Andy. Andy's vision is so clear and he gives us so many practical things. Like a lot of the stuff was in front of our faces. Yeah. So the beauty of our job is just to show up and be honest. And just be present. And sometimes, it'd be a note of be more afraid. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's easy. That's easy. That's easy. I'm in 4 feet of water. I'm scared, I promise.
Absolutely.
And Stefan, for you, were there any scenes where you had to emotionally recover afterwards, moments that hit a little harder than expected?
Pretty much every scene.
It's true though.
Yeah, you're in some pretty tough scenes,
especially from the first scene to the second scene. I mean, the sunshine is very, very.
Oh, you don't get none.
Yeah, it's like at the theater in the first episode, and then
that's it.
In the abyss. Welcome to the abyss.
Right, right.
No, absolutely. I had to be. It pushed me in ways I had not been pushed. And, the difference between TV and theater is in theater, a lot of times those big moments happen at the end, right? In the second act, right? So you have a lot of time to get yourself up to it. Versus here, you're like, hold on, we're doing what scene?
Monday morning at 8 in the morning. Cry.
Yeah, yes, cry. And you got some omelet in your teeth. So won't you get that out?
Chris, what's one detail about your character or the story that fans should pay really close attention to when Welcome to Derry premieres?
I think there are lots of details, but you asked me which is one detail they should pay attention to. And I think they should just, what I think they should do is follow the trail of love and compassion. I know it's tempting to be like, oh, it's a horror show and there's all these elements, but also what's really deeply laid into it is some really honest, genuine connections. And I think that's what makes the scares and the horror so real and scary, because you're having real human conversations and then the floor disappears.
Right. I think that's the beauty of this show. It balances that emotional family drama with these really scary horror elements to it. So some parts feel very real, even though we're in this fictional world. And that's what really resonated, at least with me when I was watching it. So yeah, the elements of this show is just so well placed together. And Stefan, back to you. Horror can serve as a metaphor for collective trauma, which kind of leans into what we were just talking about. Did the idea resonate with you at all while you were filming Welcome to Derry?
In terms of our collective conscious,
absolutely, of collective trauma and just that whole metaphor and how that related to your character.
Well, I mean, look, I grew up in Delaware and I grew up in a black neighborhood surrounded by black neighborhoods, but then I went to Morehouse on purpose because I felt unseen. I felt invisible, right? And to go to an institution. Now, let's be very clear. 18, 19, 20 years old, I'm probably not listening too much. But they provided, I'm just keeping it up 100, but they provided, there would be this thing called Crown Forum that we had every Thursday. And at Crown Forum, they would bring in all these different speakers from around the world that look like you. And they would drop knowledge and say things that if you just heard a kernel, you would hold dear to you for the rest of your life. And they were reinforcing into young black men, just like Spelman was with young black women and Clark and Morris Brown, that you are somebody, that you don't have to prove your worthiness, to stop looking outside of yourself for who you think you are, and become very clear on how you define yourself. Because if you don't, you'll be waiting for the world to tell you who you are, and you won't know what compliments to pick up and to throw away. Maya Angelou talks about that. She said that to Dave Chappelle: be wary with the compliments people give you, because you'll have to carry them like crosses. And so,
Right.
right. And so, as Black folk, we're so accustomed to people trying to tell us consciously and unconsciously who we are. And I truly believe that Hank has to fight those things in order to survive, to be there for his family.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
And
that's so powerful.
American racism. It is collective trauma.
Absolutely.
And it's collective trauma that we're so afraid of that we don't just keep doing it blindly like goofballs, when because it's so traumatic for all of us that we just do anything about. Oh, I won't. I'll stay dumb.
Absolutely.
I'll stay dumb.
And a lot of it just is because you don't ask those questions.
And
it's you have to be like I got to a point where I was like, I don't like myself. And I don't mean like not
with it,
right? Not like, but I don't like what I know, that this version of myself, if I keep on doing it, won't end good.
Yeah.
So something needs to change. And I remember asking my grandmama, she was like, well, do it. And I was like, okay. She ain't tell me what to do, but she said, that's how you feel, go do it.
Always got to listen to grandma. Grandma knows.
Well, Hank, well, not Hank, but Dick Halloran don't listen to grandma. So,
it goes listen to grandma.
That's right.
Listen to grandma.
Chris, welcome to Derry. It takes us back before the events of it. How much of that backstory influenced the way you approached your character?
I'm not sure that the backstory of Derry and it are almost irrelevant to Dick Halloran. You know what I mean? Because he is not from there. He is not of there. The beauty of that is, once I get into that space, it should feel foreign. It should feel sticky and icky and weird. And because Dick's whole journey is to get away, get out of here. I need to get away from these mean ass white people. I need to get out of this town. I just want to go back and cook. All he wants to do is go back and feel peace. And there's something about Derry, Maine, that there is no peace here. So the backstory don't matter one bit, because the moment he steps there, he goes, I don't need to be here. I don't want to be here. And then it's the journey of how do you escape something when you trapped yourself.
And I think the beauty about Dick, and you've talked about this before, is you get to articulate where he is now earlier versus in the books.
Versus when he's more mature and he's a little bit more gentle. So this is a younger version of a fragile human being who don't like people, and you see him as an old man, he's a little bit magical and a little bit we got this. Now he's nah, F all y'all. And if I could, I'd get rid of you all. And then it's everything, I'm not as powerful as I think I am. And there's a lot of humbling. Dick Halloran has to accept a lot of humbling for this show in order to live.
Yeah. We're finally kind of getting his origin story now through what we get to see with your journey. Yeah.
I wish I could tell you the spoilers.
I know we don't want that for the viewers, but I got to see a little bit of snippets of what that looks like. For both of you, without giving too much away, how do your characters fit into the Derry mythology? Are they truth seekers, survivors, or maybe something that's in between?
I would say for Hank, he'll never be the same. And, a lot of times we don't change as people until something tragic happens to us, or something like, giving birth to a child, or right? And this forces him. I don't think he was living his life. I think in a lot of ways he was stuck. It's that saying in acting, sometimes we are comfortably uncomfortable. And I think he was living a very comfortable, comfortable, uncomfortable life. And this had to force him to really look at his life, and he was forced to grow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I feel like Dick Halloran does not. What was the question again?
Is he a truth seeker, a survivor, or maybe something in between?
Yeah. I don't know that Dick Halloran is a truth seeker as much as he's just trying to escape. I'm telling you, like, he wants nothing to
More of
do
a
with.
survivor then.
Yeah, I'd say surviving and definitely not thriving. Yeah, I'd say he's a survivor of this, or attempting to survive a place that he didn't know he was going to have to survive. It just felt
Right.
like, oh, I'm going
Right.
to get out of this. I'm clever enough. I got this. And then when it flips and they go, actually, you're a powerless black dude. Like, look in the mirror. It's a good. And then the guy shows, and then it happens. Then who
Right.
gives a shit about racism? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like everything's very scary.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for
Well,
Hank, it's
thank
different because he has a child. Hank has a child.
Right.
He don't
Right.
have no choice. He got to do what he got to do.
This was brilliant performances by each of you respectively. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to Black Girl Nerds. I really appreciate the conversation today.
I love you, pink and green.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Thank
Thanks for having
you.
us.
So, Taylour, I'm going to start with you without giving too much away. What's the emotional anchor for your character amid the chaos and the horror?
Well, that's a lovely question. The emotional anchor. Well, I'm a mother, first of all, right? So that's I'm here, I'm devoted to my son, to my family, and my duty in this fucked up town. Bring the family together, hoping we have dinner together, hoping we can maintain some sense of closeness when all of our lives are, well, mine is at home, obviously, and I'm sticking my nose in other places because I'm bored. But my son is off to school. My husband is, God knows what he's doing. Yeah, my emotional anchor, family,
Siobhan's like, what did I do? I mean,
everything.
there's some irony in the way this town is drenched in this like serene, beautiful setting, but then yeah,
Yes.
all of these dark happenings are, taking place in the background. And Jovan, for you, you've often played characters that are wrestling with faith, morality, and grief. Did those themes resurface here in a new way for you?
I would say so. I'm not totally sure if that was something that I noticed, just because as soon as I got the part, I was just really excited about getting a chance to work in this world. But I think, or
Thank you.
cough or just sneeze.
I'll take the blessing.
Yep, bless you. But either way, just no. I think Leroy is a little late to the party in a way of seeing the eeriness and feeling it, because I just think he's so laser focused, and perhaps to a fault, in this mission and this opportunity to further his career, which I think he hopes will assist in his overall objective to be a protector and provider for his family, for his wife and his son, who I think are his top priority. But I think, yeah, the eeriness and how it plays is something that slowly becomes more apparent to Leroy as we follow him through the series.
I've been telling everybody that I've been talking to so far in this press day that I've had to watch this series during the day because it's so scary.
Yeah.
Like, I did not want to be disturbed watching it at night and then going to bed and having nightmares.
Smart girl. Yeah.
I mean, did you feel disturbed at all during the filming of this series? Or does it not really resonate in that way when you're shooting a production?
Oh, Taylor, you made an interesting point that day when we were saying that there were some days, depending on the scene, or maybe it didn't depend on the scene, but there were just certain days where we felt like heavier or heavier than others. And I think that that's just the set, like the place that we shot, the town we shot in, had that feeling to it. And that's not to take away from the town. It was a beautiful town. What was the name of it?
Beautiful town.
What's the name of the
Beautiful
place
town.
we filmed?
We were in Port Hope.
Port Hope.
But it's like very manicured, very picturesque. Everyone knows everyone. But anything that's like a little too perfect and symmetrical, I think we've all, you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, and it was just
It's a
really quiet.
perfect production.
It was super quiet in that town too, right?
Super quiet.
Yeah.
And also, I think sometimes you just have a sense when you're on certain land, like something went down here. What happened?
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it is. But there were days on set where the energy was just off. And naturally, look, we shot for 9 months. And naturally, like you just have off days, off weeks, off weather. You know, there was something we needed to shoot, but we had to keep pushing because of the rain. And I don't know, I think, yeah, there's an energy. There's an energy.
Some weird energy
There
happening.
is, I think, with anything, it is entertainment, but you have to be careful and stay prayed up.
Yeah, you could stir some things up.
You
That's
can stir
true.
some things up.
Yeah. Taylour, did you ever genuinely get creeped out during filming, or does the magic really kind of fade with the cameras and the crew?
I think both. I'm very sensitive. It is very much, it feels like work, and our beautiful cameramen are so jolly, and like is a new one of them, Angelo's a new grandfather. There's that warmth. But Toronto can be tricky in terms of the weather. It's like a gray sky after gray sky.
Yeah.
I was slowly rocking myself back and forth on my off days. There were days where I was feeling a little like, uh-oh, I think I'm losing my mind a little bit. Um, but it all served the discomfort that Charlotte feels, I think, in this town, and feeling alone,
Yeah.
lonely with her family.
The atmosphere informed your performance. That's good to know. Jovan, for you, was there a scene that required multiple takes because it was emotionally draining or technically intense?
Yeah, the tunnels were quite exhausting and uncomfortable to be in. I think in fact, I mean, we spent had to have been 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks on that sequence in that episode alone, just because
Those were hard days.
yeah, very
And
hard
they were
days.
late, like going into the like late. Were those overnight?
Some of them we filmed in the day when we were on the stages, and then some of them when we were like actually at Nebo House
Those were
or
like
outside.
16-hour
Those are
days.
long days, yeah.
That
Wow.
was a particular week too, where I feel like the communication was a little bit off. People were getting frustrated with each other.
Yeah.
We're like a family, but anybody spends enough time with their family, somebody's gonna fight, somebody's gonna bicker, somebody's gonna cuss somebody out. I'm just kidding. I'm like
She's
giving.
joking. It was a tough, it was a tough,
We were just like tired.
yeah,
It was dark.
cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Taylour, Black characters in horror often are sidelined or sacrificed
Or
early.
get killed first, right?
How did this series allow you to reclaim and redefine that narrative?
Well, you have to wait and see, because
Mm.
maybe they kept it going. Just kidding. That, that's silly. I'm being silly. I'm being a silly Black girl nerd. Um,
Yes.
reclaim. I think that this is a story. There's an inner, Charlotte has a very rich inner life that's interesting. Like she's a whole person that is like kind of in living in the dissonance of what she wishes and wants and is longing. She's longing to contribute to society and help people, and is also this dutiful wife and mother, a role that it's not at all that Charlotte doesn't want to be this. It's just she's ahead of her time, hoping she can have both agency in both places. She wants to be a dutiful, doting mother and wife, and also be out there marching and helping people who are wrongfully accused get the help they need. And so that alone is so much more than we get to see in horror. It's usually
Yeah.
like, girl, oh, she died, that's sad. And this is kind of
Hashtag
really
Brandy. No, she did last summer.
exactly. You should
Yeah.
have said that louder. Say it louder.
Say it
Hashtag
louder.
Brandy Norwood.
Not the
I mean, I love the representation. There's a significant Black cast in this series, and I
yeah.
love seeing that. And we don't get to see many of us in the horror genre, but then that is changing. That is shifting now.
Mm.
Jovan, for you, there's something revolutionary about the Black tenderness existing in horror that we see in this show. How does your relationship on screen embody the softness amid the chaos?
Aw.
It's a great question. I think it was within the conversations that I had with Andy about Leroy. My father is also a retired Air Force airman, and was also from. He was born in Tennessee, and so I spent a lot of time talking to him about what it was like to be a young father in the military that was, responsible for taking care of his family, even though he was always on the go. And I think it was important to me, based off the conversations I had with my dad, who I'm very close to show. I mean, I just feel like it's far too easy to play a military man who's always aggressive. And I think he's very good at his job. He's a high-ranked officer, so he's fought in wars and he can be hard or be aggressive, whatever. But I wanted to show a well-rounded black man in that era who that the audience could see really everything he's doing. The audience might not agree with because he's
Mhm.
just so, maybe a little bit stubborn and laser focused, but he's doing it because he really, really loves his family. And so I appreciated that they had scenes where even if we were bickering, or I was missing the mark with the awkwardness of how I talked to Will, who was played brilliantly by Blake, there'd be moments in the scenes and towards the end as well, where it's more apparent, like everything I'm doing is because I love you, Charlotte. I love you, son. So I was just really grateful that they allowed to have that balance, because I think, they don't always show that with black men on screen, or specifically men who are in the service.
That's facts. That is facts. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to Black Girl Nerds. I really loved
Thank
seeing your
you.
performances on screen. Great job, and I can't wait for everybody else to see this show when it premieres.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much. I
much.
appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me. I appreciate it.
Hi, Jamie.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. This show is also gut-wrenching. I could not watch it at night. It was that scary. I had to watch it during the daytime. I did not want to be disturbed before going to bed. That's how much this show really, really frightened me. Kimberly, I'm going to start with you. How much did you know about the It universe before signing on? And did that knowledge shape your performance at all?
So I had a very disturbing, I'll try to make this quick. I had a very disturbing relationship with horror. I grew up loving it. I would eat it like my chocolate ice cream, anything, all things horror. I was so deeply into it. And then when I was a freshman in college, I had an experience with a real horror film in a real theater where something came out of the screen in
Oh
my
my
real life.
God.
I remember like pinching myself going, is this real or is this not? And I think that's when I understood that a movie can have something beyond just entertainment, but it can have a spiritual quality to it. And so I stopped horror for a long time. So anything that really deeply I viscerally responded to, I just wouldn't watch it. I would watch some horror, but not if it, I saw Pennywise show up, Bill Skarsgård. Are you kidding me? I couldn't even watch the commercial, right? It was so terrifying. So when I got the role, I didn't know what they were offering me. I said, well, what project is this for? And they said It. And I'm like, I couldn't even watch the commercials. How am I supposed to be in the prequel? But then I watched at daytime, I watched chapters 1 and 2, fell in love with the story, fell in love with the filmmakers, the storytellers, and then met them on Zoom, and I was all in.
Now, it's interesting that you share that story because there is a scene that plays exactly that way in the very first episode. I know you weren't in that scene, but were you on the shoot that day? Were you triggered by that moment?
Yes, that was actually, in this, there had been so many great questions from all over the world. And that was what was one of the questions in the first episode, what terrified you the most? And it's that moment. And
It's that moment.
we're both stage actors. My very first stage performance was in The Music Man. So it was a really perfect
Oh,
storm of
wow.
horror for me.
Oh, wow. That's kind of creepy too.
Agreed.
James, for you, horror often reveals a lot about human resilience. What personal layers did you bring to make these characters more victims or archetypes?
Well, I got the job in my late 60s, so I'm bringing a lifetime of terror to this. um, it's it's a lifetime of working through fears, of facing fears, dealing with fears, oppressing fears, suppressing fears, helping fears go away in other people, and hopefully gaining an understanding of them. General Shaw, in his best moments, has kind of a calming influence. When I charm Leroy in the early episodes, we have a couple of drinks and we talk about our dads. This is an ability that he had, was that he was able to talk about to help Major Hanlon relax. And that's one of the best things to fight fears, is to relax and to take it easy. And if you have somebody that's commanding in their presence, which it took me 65 years to get to, it makes it a little easier to convey. I don't know if that answers the question directly, but I hope that's what I brought to the part.
Yeah, I mean, and you're no stranger to this genre. I mean, I remember one of the early horror films that I saw you in was Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, the Lover's Vow vignette.
Made on Chong. It was one of my great moments.
Yeah.
One of my favorite
That was
pieces.
my favorite vignette out of the three in that film. Kimberly, back to you. Horror can be a mirror for social issues. Did you sense any deeper commentary running through the Welcome to Derry series?
It's so deep. This is my hope, though. I don't want anybody to not watch it because it's good for them, because the metaphor is so deep, it's so rich, and it's so right there in your face. It's right there if you want it. And so I really just want people to come to it. And, our people believe that story is medicine. And I believe this is good medicine. I believe the horror part of the medicine is, medicine's usually bitter. And I think the horror is what is bitter about it. But the love and the friendship and the resilience is the good medicine inside of it. So I do see the entire Welcome to Derry season and the world as being a metaphor for the world that we're living in right now. And the cycle, right? The cycle, in my language, it's school. It's a spiral that 1962 has so much relevance. That's where we're set in Welcome to Derry. It has so much relevance to today. And I really, I do hope the people that want to go there and are really and kind of empowered by it.
And those are the kind of stories that really resonate with people when it gets like really close to home and it hits with real issues that impact us. James, back to you. Your career spans across generations of storytelling. What keeps you drawn to complex and often haunted characters like this one?
How could you not be? They're the only characters I want to play. I don't want to play people that understand everything and get along with everybody. I don't know if I could do that. I feel that haunted, complex characters they're the Hamlets of cinema. I mean, Hamlet was haunted and complex. He was literally haunted by the ghost of his father. And that's the greatest role that a young actor can play. So I feel that those are all in the tradition of the theater. And when you bring a great sense of not understanding to something, but fighting and through it and trying to gain understanding and to reconcile all this stuff, that's what makes it watchable. Because we're all struggling with the unknown. We're all struggling with trying to get through stuff. And when you see something of yourself represented emotionally, that means that I've done my job. And then I start to feel a connection. I've had people all over the world tell me that, oh, this part made me feel connected here, and that part made me feel connected there. And to me, that's just been one of the most enriching parts of the fabric of my life, is that these characters that I've played, they're not touched by James Remar. They're touched by these characters. Oh, I loved you as Ajax. He was tough. Harry Morgan was compassionate. And, that's what I signed up for. And so that's what I'm drawn to, those kind of complex, haunted characters.
When it's palpable, it sticks. It really does. Kimberly, you've been a long voice for Indigenous representation in film and TV. How does Welcome to Derry engage with identity or belonging in ways that resonated with you?
Well, it was so important to myself and so many in our community because we love horror. We love the it universe, the Stephen King universe, and so much of that universe is undergirded by this native lore, right? This understanding that there was a story before the story. There's a place that people lived before it was called Derry. And so it's those stories and those mysteries that kind of feed a lot of the Stephen King universe and a lot of horror in general. I'm like an 80s kid, so I grew up with the mystical Indian burial ground and these, right?
Yep.
And so to get to go in there and unpack that and give our people a voice and really bring our humanity to the fore, because I still think a lot of people think that we live in the past and that it's just teepees and feathers and we're riding horses. And it's like we have made it through genocide and we are thriving and we're in our native joy, particularly in this moment, so it's a really powerful time to get to be a part of this incredible this story that's going to touch the world, has been touching the world. It's the #1 horror film in, still to date, box office wise. And so to get to bring that richness and the depth and the humanity and the historical fact and the beauty and the joy and all the things, it's really exciting for us as a community.
Yeah, I can't wait for the fans to see this one. They're going to eat it up. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak to Black Girl Nerds. I appreciate the conversation today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Hello,
much.
Jamie.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
Welcome. Good. How are you?
excited to talk to you.
Good. I'm excited to talk to you. This show scared me. I actually had to
Good.
watch it during the day because I just didn't want my mind to be disturbed before I go to bed at night.
Amazing.
But yeah, good job. Good job on that part. Jason, I will start with you. Welcome to Derry. It expands on King's lore while forging new territory. How did you decide what parts of its mythology to explore or reinvent?
Great question. We were identifying the unexplained parts, which really are mostly suggested in the context of Mike Hanlon's interludes in the original novel. Obviously, Mike Hanlon, one of the losers, remains in Derry and spends his time sort of becoming a historian of the town. And you have these interstitial chapters within the book where Mike is picking at the history and trying to understand what happened in previous cycles. And what's great about those pieces are they sort of suggest events in past cycles, and you learn about, say, the Black Spot Fire, you learn about the Kitchener Ironworks explosion or the Bradley Gang shootout massacre, but you don't get things fully explained. And so that just for us and, the Muschietis, we just felt like the most fertile area to explore because there was just enough to go on and to begin to create, but just enough still left unexplained that we could sort of invent and create for ourselves. And so that was really the genesis of how we built this.
Always with the approval of Stephen King.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And he's very dialed in on social media. He's been like really pumping this up because I follow him on Threads and I've seen him really talking about this show and telling people to brace themselves for it. Brad, for you, the tone of it balances horror, heart, and also nostalgia. How did you capture the emotional rhythm of this serialized format?
The emotional rhythm, that's a really good question. I mean, I've worked very often in many different shows that have, that operate on a wide canvas, shows like Warrior and Tokyo Vice. I like complex, multi-character, interconnected tales, where you have many different characters with many different points of view. You don't quite know where any of them fit until you do, but they all fit together and they're always, there's always an obvious plan at the end that was there from the beginning. So, for me, it was very natural to sort of sit down, take the themes of the show, with Jason, with Andy and Barbara, the themes of the show being the weaponization of fear, which is very relevant even to our modern day, to divide and conquer, to seize power, all that kind of stuff. The themes that are already in the book, the loss of innocence, which is very separate from that, having to confront your fears, your traumas in order to grow up, become an adult, and ultimately heal. Take all those themes, different characters, and put them all together in a satisfying way. And, it's a difficult question. It's a difficult thing to do. Obviously, long form storytelling lets you do that in a much easier way than films, because you can delve so much more deeply into character. Delving more deeply into character, learning what makes people tick, you can obviously figure out what fears are going to make them horrified and, torture them with those fears and then torture the audience with those scares. So we were able to do all that stuff, I think, and hopefully in a satisfying way.
You did. I like the balance between like the real fears, the kind of the fictional, slasher kind of fears, but then you give this beautiful tone of what's going on with these kids in this town, and the families around them. So yeah, great balance there. Jason, back to you. Can you talk about the challenge of maintaining a mystery when audiences kind of already know Pennywise's legacy?
Sure. Well, when you're talking about a story that includes a villain who audiences already know will meet its demise at some point in the distant future, you want to find a different set of stakes. And so, yes, a large part of the audience will be coming in understanding that it doesn't make it past, the 2017 cycle. And so the question is, how do you create an alternative set of stakes that not just feel sort of equal to that, but greater? And I think we found some answers. There's an essential mystery at the heart of the show in terms of what are stakes greater than life or death for an entity like it. Yes, it eventually dies. We know that. But I think what's at stake for it is far greater than life or death. I think what it is up to is far larger than it just being about this group of kids. So I'm excited that the stakes feel grander and bigger and more intense. And our desire to find something fresh is sort of what led us in that direction.
Indeed. Brad, back to you without giving too much away. How will Welcome to Derry surprise fans and who they think know everything about this town? Because there's a huge fan base around this series already.
Yeah. Well, Welcome to Derry is not the books. It's an extrapolation of the books, but it's its own story, and it exists in a completely different It cycle, 27 years earlier from the movies. Obviously, the books take place in a different timeline, but it comes around every 27 years, causes mayhem, eats, feeds for 6 months to 2 years, and then sleeps. This is a feeding cycle that takes place in 1962. And I think the way it's going to surprise fans is, there's a lot of stuff that takes place in those first 5 episodes that will even, and this, we haven't even talked about this. This feels like an exclusive for you, and Black Girl Nerds, but there's some stuff where you find out something about the villain's plan fairly early on in the episodes. It's not what you think it is on its face. Even though you think you might know what the villain's plan is and what he is using our main character, Leroy Hanlon, for, what he's using the character of Dick Halloran for, the beloved Stephen King character, it's not. It's not what you think. And you sort of get that sense even from the pilot when we pull the rug out from under people at the end of the pilot. And we did that for a reason. So everybody realizes nobody is safe in this show. Nothing is what you think. Nobody is who you think they are. This can even go for minor characters. And so you should be on your guard at all times, because we aim to surprise you and we aim to scare the hell out of you and shock you. So, even with those first 5 episodes, you might think you know what's going on and you actually don't.
And fans are very smart, especially fans in the nerd community. So
yeah, totally.
To surprise us and to, completely throw us off guard and where things are not exactly what they seem, that is exactly the strategy that you should go for. And you definitely threw me off on a lot of plots and twists and turns throughout the plots.
Right. More coming. There are more coming.
Jason, was there a specific question about Derry's past that you felt that the It films left unanswered once the show or does this show actually get to finally explore?
Oh, I think there were a lot of things left unanswered. Brad, I think, touched on some of those questions, specifically why it chooses to remain in Derry. The fact that it, as a being of light, in theory, could travel anywhere it wants to feed. What is it about this town that keeps it coming back or forces it to? That, I think, is one of the essential mysteries that I was really drawn to. I also think that specifically at Chapter 2, which I was lucky enough to work on, introduced the indigenous community and saw an early encounter, obviously the ritual of Chud that we saw in that movie. I was really curious what had happened in the intervening years. We obviously understood that they'd had this encounter so long ago, but what happened since? Is that community still aware of it? Have that sort of the storytelling of that been passed down from generation to generation? What level of memory still existed in that community about this thing? And if there was a memory of it, how are they dealing with that? Those were all questions I was really excited to sort of find the answers to. And it really intersected with one of the key themes, I think, of the book and of the series, which is memory. Memory versus amnesia. This is a town where amnesia, where a willful forgetfulness is used as a weapon to force people or to persuade people to forget the horrible things that have been done. And so memory as a moral weapon was an interesting theme to me. And understanding how memory as a weapon might overlap with the indigenous community's experience and history with it led to some pretty intriguing places for me as a writer, but also as a viewer, as a reader. I wanted to know where that took us.
Oh, wow. That's some rich stuff right there. I really, really love this series. It scared the crap out of me, like the monsters, and it's just so well done. It's so well crafted together. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to Black Girl Nerds. I really appreciate the conversation today.
Thank you so much.
Great questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Hi,
Speak with me. Hi, how are you guys?
Very good.
You guys have a really scary one here. I've been telling everybody on this junket, I could not see this this series at night. I had to watch it during the day.
No, at night, only at night.
I know. I mean, at night is probably the best experience, but I didn't want to go to bed with nightmares.
That's the one condition.
At night and alone.
No, I did not want to be disturbed in that way, but you guys did a great job with the scares and just the horror of it all. Andy, I'll start with you. How did you preserve the cinematic DNA of the films while exploring new territory in this serialized medium?
For me, there's no option because I there's only one way I can tell stories, and it's in the form of film. So you'll notice that it looks like the films. The tone and the style is the same. If anything, the volume of the intensity is a little higher.
Just a little.
That was intentional. I just wanted to step up a little bit, and I think it was something good for audiences that are for people who love the movies and people who didn't watch the movies. It would be equally as gratifying. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it wasn't. Sorry, I will shut up.
No, that's fine. And Barbara, for you as producer and a creative force on this series, what was your guiding principle in maintaining the emotional heart amidst the horror?
Well, that's the only thing I care about, really, because just shock value has no value to me, and unless it is absolutely linked with an emotional tie. And if you can't get to know the characters, if you can't empathize with the characters, then you don't care, and they can chop up, all the cast, and you don't care. So I think keeping the emotional stakes of the show, blending it with real world problems, which is a very important in for us, We have an evil being from another dimension, but the problems in the world are absolutely real and just as evil.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. And you bring up a good point. It's important to be able to care about a character, especially in horror, because then the deaths hit harder, you know? So yeah, that's an important thing element
I
to
think
add.
that's one of the good things about having told the story in a longer format in an episodic show, because you spend more time with these kids, and when something happens, if something happens, then it's hard, it's deeper felt, and the impact, it hits you in a different way. So yeah.
Indeed. And Andy, visually, Derry has this haunting, nostalgic quality. How did you evolve that aesthetic for the series?
Well, the evolution is just jumping to the 60s and imagining how this would look in the 60s. Um, the the funny thing about Derry is that it looks like a perfect little town that hides like horrific secrets, both supernatural and real life ones, and very tied to the reality of small towns in America. So I try to stick to that reality. Derry, I try to make the most beautiful and wholesome the town in America, and that's what Derry is, and that's how Derry is described in the book. And I had a lot of fun doing it, like building a world in the 60s is not only very satisfying on the screen, but when you're shooting it and you're there, and you're shooting an exterior scene where the camera pans like 180 or 360, or it's like the camera is loose, you realize that everything has been dressed up like in the 60s, and you feel there's not an experience that it's like a time traveling experience where you're standing in the middle of the street and wherever you look is like the 60s. The storefronts, the cars, the background extras with their costumes. It's really a magical experience. I'm very happy that we did it.
And we had this discussion a lot with Paul Osterberry, who was our production designer, and Luis Sequeira, who was our costume designer. The 60s, the US was already getting, an influx of, just rebellion. But this was a small town. So the fashion was, maybe 5 years older than 62. And, the visual
it wasn't
signage.
on the edge of anything, very. It was like real big, like kind of like conservative America. And yeah. And the things, but what you mentioned about like this kind of inflection point, it's something that is about to happen, in the late 50s and early 60s, the beatniks that then evolve into the hippies and everything. That's not something that really exploded yet. But there's one character in particular that sees that coming, sees that inflection point coming, and it's the whole motivation for him to carry his plan along. I don't know if I'm clear with who that is, but it's one of the bad guys.
Yeah, I love the mystery behind the show. I love the different elements, the emotional core with the families and the kids, and then, of course, the horror element, which, again, I had to watch it during the day. But thank you, Andy. Thank you so much, Barbara, for taking the time to speak to Black Girl Nerds. I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.